Welcome back to Shit Creek Survivors, where we share stories of resilience and tools for resilience. This week, we got a great story for you from Kevin, who's going to share his extraordinary journey of addiction to recovery. A pastor's son, Kevin spiraled into substance abuse, burglarizing his own church at his worst moment, including getting into shootouts and serving some jail time. Now sober, he reveals the pivotal moments that changed his life, the complex family dynamics, and the impact of loss. Kevin is going to talk about how he now helps people in that same situation. Amazing, guys. Stay tuned, like, subscribe. We love you. All right, everybody. So we are here with Kevin. I almost stuttered on that because I had Michael on the last time. I have Kevin on today. We were talking about Michael, but Kevin, really quickly, let me do an introduction. We met kind of a funny way. We've actually talked about it in a previous episode when I actually shared how I got to go into Bartow County Jail and meet with some individuals who were trying to better themselves. It was a great experience for me. But the way that happened, I'll share it again, is I was actually getting a sign made for my truck, like a magnetic Shit Creek Survivors, you know, with the YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Sort of what that is right there. It's exactly what that is. And when I went to get the signs after they'd been made, the person actually said, "Hey, I know a guy in Cartersville, which is the community I live in, who is working on safe housing for individuals coming out of, I believe, prison and drug recovery programs." Is that correct, Kevin?
Yeah.
Okay,
Jail,
good.
prison, wherever you want to, either wherever, incarcerated or out of rehabs that are, trying to transition back into society.
Right. And
Yeah.
the individual is like, do you mind if I give my information to him? I was like, sure. Next thing you know, I'm sitting on a golf course working at this time, and I get a phone call, and Kevin introduces himself, says what he's doing. I kind of give him my spiel, and next thing you know, I've got an invite to the jail, which was a little scary. You know what I mean? It's just an environment I haven't been in for a bit, but you were able to get me back in there, which actually means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it because, you know, it's funny when you're in that world for a long time and then you come out of it, you realize, you know, the privileges you had getting back there and interacting with people and the clearances and all that kind of stuff. So Kevin was able to get me into the jail, was able to meet with some people, share my testimony. I hope I did a good job. What was it okay, Kevin?
I mean, I thought you did great, man. It's good for those guys to see a different perspective from where their aspect, from what your background was and where they are, and that thing. I think that really, man, it just gives them really, if nothing else, to know that we're at the end of the day we're all humans, whether that's our job or not, and the way we interact with one another really matters. And so for them to see somebody from your perspective of where you've been and where you were at and what you went through, to see that, man, we're all human. We all go through stuff. And,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a matter of one decision away from being on the other side of the bars or not.
100%. And I truly believe that I could have made one of those decisions at any time in my life. I mean, and sometimes people, I understand more and more now, like they made decisions based on necessity in a lot of situations. And then there's other things that get involved, you know, like addiction, you know, there's trauma in your past, all kinds of stuff that as a child, you don't know how to sort out. So now you grow up and you're kind of like still lost in it. And things happen and
Yeah.
life happens. And it was an absolute privilege to get back there and meet those individuals, because every individual is worth the same amount. We all, our souls takes up the same space in heaven. None of us have a U-Haul behind a hearse. So all of these earthly things that we get, they mean nothing. The house that we live in means nothing. It's actually, you know, everyone matters. Everyone is a child of God. And that's a strange thing for me to say, because compared to the first episode, moving forward, I mean, I've been on just this train of, I don't know, Jesus keeps showing up in different places, and I'm like, okay, I'll do that too. And then you just do the next thing, the next thing. Anyways, let me get off my soapbox. Kevin has a great testimony. A great testimony. He's going to tell us a little about kind of like where he's from, what growing up was like, and kind of decisions that were made, situations you found yourself in. And at one point, it sounds like you made a decision to change your life around. sounds exactly like every story on here. You know, I mean, whether you're a police officer, whether you're a convict, whatever it is, you're going through life, something happens that rocks you, and you decide to change your ways. And I would love for you to share that with our audience. So go ahead.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, that decision. Sometimes our decisions aren't made for us, so I was kind of forced to make a decision, and so, but yeah, we'll get to that. But growing up, man, gosh, I was very fortunate in a lot of ways growing up. Growing up, I was the youngest of four boys, so my poor mom putting up with four boys. Doctor said I was going to be a girl. Everybody was very disappointed, so I disappointed everybody right out the gate, man. So like
Oh.
everybody expecting the girl, but here I came. So, but no. So growing up, man, interesting. By the time I was born, so there's an age gap. I mean, it's really not that far, but it is of about 6 years to the one above me, 9 years to the oldest.
Okay.
So there was some time in between. So by the time I was born, our family, my dad's from Taylorsville, which is right outside of Cartersville, small country town. My mom's from Macon down in South Georgia. And so they met. Funny enough, couldn't get away with this these days, but he was her basketball coach when she was in high school. Yeah. So there's a 10 years age gap in them. So, that was, that I always love sharing their story because these days, you obviously not going to happen, but,
Right.
they were married a whole year while her senior year of high school, and she'd go home every night. So it was after she graduated high school before she could tell anybody she was even married.
Really?
Yeah, so, but they'd lived down there. I said all that to say they'd lived down there. By the time I was born, they'd moved back to Bartow County, and so I was born up here. Some of my brothers were born down in Robinson, Macon, and so growing up at the time, my dad was superintendent of the Bartow County schools, and then he was principal of Carswell Elementary School.
Oh.
And then after he became principal of Carswell Elementary, he felt a calling to ministry, and he started pastoring bivocational, which is basically on the weekends. He still kept his full-time job and pastored in between
Okay.
on the weekends and stuff, and during the week at nights. So that's how I grew up. I grew up a preacher's kid. So some of my brothers got to experience my dad before he made that decision. So I really hadn't heard too many horror stories other than he'd watch football on Sundays while mom went to church. So
Right.
all that obviously changed. But growing up, very fortunate, man. My parents were together till my dad passed 4 years ago, for 53 years, I think. So I got to see that, didn't grow up in the divorce home. So very fortunate there. Growing up, we prayed at meals. That's back when we used to have family dinners in the
Right.
evening time, do stuff as a family, go on vacations as a family, stuff like that. So very fortunate in that aspect. Growing up, I did get a lot of my dad, so we got really close because I'd ride to school with him. Then I'd see him obviously on the weekends at church and stuff, and so that was me growing up. I can remember, you know, and my dad being my principal, everybody always asks that, I probably had it made, but unfortunately, yeah. The good thing about my dad is if I got in trouble at school, I didn't get in trouble at home. So that was one thing he kept separate.
Separation. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the problem was he paddled me at school, so he didn't have to when he got home. So it really didn't matter.
So you
So,
were like an example. Yeah.
yeah, I was an example. So, I mean, even in elementary school up to fifth grade, I got paddled twice by him. So, yeah, one was in third grade. This girl, we were watching a movie, and I went to the bathroom, came back. She was sitting in my seat, and I just gave her a little nudge out of my seat. And so the teacher frowned on that. And then, the other one was we were, I don't know, this is probably going to date me. So when I was in elementary school, we'd have a red light in the cafeteria where you would, it would show like red, yellow, green. So you could either talk or you had to be quiet or you couldn't
Yeah.
talk at all.
Okay.
So it was red one day. And so we're in line leaving. And my buddy's like, I dare you to sing on the national anthem. Well, number one, I can't carry a tune in the bucket. But so I stood outside the line and started belting out the national anthem. And the teacher grabs me by the arm and takes me straight to my dad's office. And so I got paddling for that. So I got,
Man.
yeah. So
Paddling
paddle.
for like that's so different than nowadays. Like if you saw a
Oh
kid
yeah.
step out of line and start singing the national anthem, you'd be like, "That a boy."
So yeah, so paddled me twice before I even got into middle school, man. Even back then, the elementary and middle school was one big building and it's separated by the cafeteria. So even when I went to middle school, he wasn't too far. And I can remember I walked into classroom one day and I had these little fake earrings in my ears, and the teacher's like, "Come on, let's go." And I'm like, "What did I do?" So we're walking down the hall. We passed the principal's office. I'm looking around trying to figure out, like, we just passed, so we're going around the corner to the elementary side and straight to my dad's office. And he gave me this, I'll never forget it. He said, "Son, if you want to wear earrings, we'll put a dress on you and let you go to the women's bathroom." I said, "All right." So, it's funny, ironically, my freshman year in college, I ended up getting my ears pierced. So he wasn't too happy with that. But yeah, so once I got out of elementary school, I went to high school, which was across town, and and I started feeling like, okay, because this whole time, like, I'm tied to my dad. I'm always associated straight to him. I didn't feel like I caught a break, and so when I got to high school, I remember my freshman year. Teacher doing the roll and gets to my name, he's like, "You related to Craig Harris?" That was my brother, Jeffrey Harris. And I'm like, "Yes, those are my brothers." He said, "Well, if you're anything like them, I need you to come up here and sit on the front row." And I'm like, "Good night, man."
I
Like
just,
I'm
I
like,
just
I
got
got away
you.
from my, yeah, I just got away from my dad, and now so growing up, man, I say all that. I felt like I grew up. I was always considered, Doug's son, Gail's son, Ron's little brother, Craig's little brother, Jeffrey's little brother, and never really. I fought for an identity for Kevin. And so that freshman year of high school is when I started drinking. Get around some buddies, started drinking, and it wasn't that I liked drinking. It was, well, maybe this will be, it was me trying to find identity for myself.
Yep.
Who am I?
Yep.
And for that, those buddies I hung around, of course, they're like, "Oh, they'd call me Kevin. I wasn't anybody's little brother or son or anything." So, so that's how it started for me at age 14. I started drinking.
Hmm.
Well, I think the only reason in high school that I didn't get too far out of whack was because I played basketball, loved it, pretty good at it, and focused on that. But I mean, I still drank, I still partied. By the time I graduated high school, of course, I was introduced to a bunch of other stuff. And after graduating high school, I tried Georgia Southern. Anybody's familiar with colleges? Used to be, I don't know if it still is, used to be the number one partying school in the state of Georgia. So,
Where is that the one on the coast?
no, it's down in Statesboro.
Statesboro. Okay.
It's before you get to Augusta, but it's down there close. It's within driving range to go drinking if you
Yeah.
if you want to go to, I think Savannah, or I think Savannah was the closest. But yeah, but it's in the middle of nowhere, and of course, a dry county, but it's, so whatever. So I didn't last long there because of my partying habits. So after about a semester, uh, I'd gotten in trouble several times in college. And I was sitting at the dean's office, and he's like, "Hey, man, so we have a 3-strike rule, and you're out. You're in your first semester." He said, "You've got 2 strikes." He said, "I really don't see you being here for another 3.5 years and not getting another strike." He said, "You should probably go home." I'm like, "Okay." So that's what I did.
Yeah.
So I came back home. By the time I come back home, I'd kind of already been introduced to it, but kind of took it on a whole nother level. Meth was my drug of choice. Um, that was for me, I guess, because of my personality, my always being on the go. My third grade teacher would put my feet in the trash can because I couldn't keep them still.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that was just kind of how it was. You know, back then, not too many people are diagnosed with, I don't know if they are, ADHD or any of
Right.
that stuff, but
Yeah.
uh, more than likely I would have been. But when I was introduced to meth, like that did it for me. My
Okay.
my personality, addictiveness, or whatever the case, like that's my jam. So that's what I experimented with. That's what I did. Um, uh, After a couple years of being back home, I even tried moving to Kentucky. My brother moved up there, tried to move up there for a little while. Um, and it didn't last long. Me and him ended up, just something that I wrote about. Um, uh, Probably there's not a lot of regrets,
Excuse
not a
me.
lot of regrets. You're good.
Hmm.
Bless you. Not a lot of regrets in my life, but there are two things, and I'll talk about one later, that if I could do over again, I probably would. But for the most part, you know, I feel like everything that I've done in life has led me to where I'm at today, and made me who I am, the personality, the experience I got. But two things that if I could do over again, this would be one of them. And while I was in Kentucky, I ended up sleeping with my brother's girlfriend, and having that whole deal went down. So I ended up moving back. So obviously that was nasty for our family for a while. I've made amends since a couple of times, just um, but me and my brother are good. Um, I had that, and when I came back, I thought maybe I needed to settle down. I'd been in a few altercations. Well, I got in one altercation where I was involved in a shooting. We were at an apartment complex. I was selling drugs at the time, selling pot, doing meth. Selling drugs and doing drugs never end well. It's it's not a good business decision, however you want to look at
No.
it. So you always think, I'll just support my habit, but it's neither here nor there. But so we're at an apartment. Somebody wants to come rob us or rob me, and so they come try to cook in the back door, and we get into a gun altercation. And after that, it was like, man, it was at the time, of course, adrenaline and everything, no big deal. Some people think you're cool, but it was, man, it can be. I mean, you have your own experience, your own story about your, being shot, but it kind of, you think about it, like you get a bullet going over your head, and you thinking, uh, maybe I'm making some bad life choices here. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, all right, I need to settle down. And what was I, 20, around 20, and I'm like, settle down. So I get a wife, have a family. Like, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
End up getting this girl pregnant. Growing up being a Baptist preacher's son, you're supposed to have kids after marriage. You're not supposed to have sex before marriage, that whole thing. So I'm like, oh, we'll get married. Even though she's of the Mormon belief, which anybody knows anything about religions, those are pretty opposite, Baptist and Mormon.
Hmm.
But did it anyway. We got married. Um, we had another child after my son was born, a little girl. She was born a little premature. Her lungs hadn't fully developed yet. She was, she'd had some breathing problems. She was, uh, we, what's that respiratory RSV?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
what it's called? RSV?
I believe
Golly, it's
so.
been so long since I've told this story. Uh, RSV. So she was in and out of the hospital. She's in the hospital for 2 weeks, home for 2 weeks, in the hospital 2 weeks. And so the last time they sent us home with like a heart monitor put on her to kind of keep up with it. And
Yeah.
one day that monitor broke, so it was going to be the next day before they send us out one. So at the time, I worked at a yarn mill, and I worked nights. So I was home this night, and my wife's like, at the time, she was like, hey, so I'll stay up with her because when I'm home, my son wouldn't have anything to do with anybody but me. So she's like, you go to bed with our son, I'll stay up with her,
Hmm.
whatever. And so about 4:30 in the morning, I get woke up with my wife screaming, hollering, she's not breathing, she's not breathing. And she hands her to me. And so I knew CPR at the time because I had to where I worked, and tried to do everything I could, call 911. But they got her to the hospital, and they pronounced her dead at the hospital.
I'm so
So she
sorry.
had passed. She was 2 months old. So she lived to be about 2 months old, and so it was. I was 20, 21 at the time. I mean, devastating.
Yeah.
And it would be for anybody at any age losing a child. And so uh, so that really took a toll on me. And at this point in my life, like, I wasn't full blown in addiction, but like I would drink, I would use if somebody had something. So I wasn't too off
Right.
down the path. I was functioning at the time. So after that, um, you know, uh, it was probably, gosh, a couple weeks later, I'm out in the yard with my son, and he falls, starts crying. So I go pick him up. I'm thinking that he's like 18 months old at this time, and so I'm thinking, he's just, he fell, crying. Well, when I picked him up, he had a bunch of ants on him. I brushed him off. Well, his face starts swelling, his throat starts swelling. Come to find out, he's definitely allergic to fire ants. And so here we are. I'm holding him in my yard, calling 911. Man, he's not breathing and freaking out. So the ambulance gets there in time. Gives, I guess, EpiPen's what you call it. Gave him some kind of relief.
Yeah.
They knew exactly what to do right away. So saved his life. So
thank goodness.
that was, yeah. So he's 26 now. He's got a baby. I got my first grandson. He's about 18 months old. So
congratulations. That's cool.
Thank you. Yeah. So I tell my son all the time that I've got my grandson. So unless you have more kids, I got no use for you. So whatever. Because he's all the time, you don't even come to see me anymore. I'm like, you're right. So, but anyway, so at that time it was, man, within 2 weeks, I'd lost one, almost lost my second one. And I can remember telling my wife laying in bed one night, like, you dream of holding your kids as they come into this world, but you never dream that you'll hold them as they leave this earth. You know what I mean? So that was, man, it was tough. It was tough. After that, oh man, that's when my addiction, if my addiction was ever started, that probably fueled it and started my addiction of meth. Like, I dabbled and I'd been a functional addict up to this point, maintained jobs, whatever, wasn't a big deal. So that's when I went full blown into addiction. And when I was talking about regrets, like, as my little girl, she only made it 2 months, and the other one was, like, I remember she was born like November the 29th, died February 9th, but that was in 99 to 2000. So, and I don't know if you remember the 2000 thing, everybody thought the world was ending.
Yeah.
So I spent it with my buddies in Tampa Bay at a Georgia Purdue game. And that's how I spent it, but I spent some time away. So I say I regret I didn't spend enough time with my daughter while she was here. Because you think as a baby, like, oh, I don't want to I'll hold them, or I don't want to do anything with them. Because to me, it was like, and when they can walk and play, then I'll do something. So
I've just been introduced to a new niece, and it's a little like, you don't want to break them. They're so small and
right?
delicate. You're just like, I just don't want to break this thing. So I'm with you. I'm like, I'm waiting until they get to walking and moving around before I start bumping around.
Because I want to sit there and you just hold them. They sleep, they poop, they change their diet, like, So it's like, you got a few years. So, but anyway, but yeah. So that was my thought process. So if I ever, I think, but so what do you do? So I didn't know I had those 2 months. If I did, would I have done anything different? I'd like to think I would, but anyway, those are two things: the deal with my brother's girlfriend, and that I always look back and think, probably should have done something different. But
I think that's awesome. You take accountability for it. A lot of people just move on and run from it, and
yeah,
that's awesome that you're able to, articulate that was a bummer, this happened, but I have made amends and done the things that you can control and not focus on the things you can't control.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So then that after she had passed and all that, obviously me and my my wife at the time, I turned to what I knew, which was addiction. She turned to her religion. We ended up, I should say obviously, but we ended up getting divorced and separating. So I'd move. We were living in Hall County, Gainesville, Flowery Branch, and then I moved back to Cartersville and went back to the streets. Involved in another shooting. Somebody broke into my house one day that I was renting, stole my drugs and gun, and that night they started shooting through, did a drive-by on us
They
kind
came
of thing.
back. Dang.
Yeah, I know, right? They usually don't come back.
They must have been really mad.
Yeah, well, I think I moved into the neighborhood and took over their business, but it's neither here nor there.
Okay.
So I think that was more of a retaliation thing. But either way, after that, and I'm like, golly, but that one really didn't. I guess because I was so far gone, so far, didn't care.
Right.
Living in this world for what reason, didn't care, kind of thing. And and during this time, I even this I don't think I've hardly ever shared, but I attempted suicide one time. I tried to slit my wrists. I I always say I don't think I wasn't very good at it, and two, I think I chickened out about halfway through of slicing my wrist, and I'm like, maybe I don't. So
Yeah.
that was as I look back, the consequences for that was drinking this black stuff that was absolutely terrible that made you throw up because I took a bunch of pills.
Yeah. So
And
what
when
is
I
that,
did
like
it,
charcoal and stuff like
yeah,
that?
charcoal, and
Yeah.
yeah, man, it was absolute, and then I spent 2 weeks in a, in, what do you call it? Insane asylum or something. I don't know,
Yeah,
spent
like
2 weeks.
getting evaluated.
Yeah, so that was, that's my consequences for that. So I've never attempted since then.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it
But
didn't work.
yes, me too, me too. I mean, I'd tell people, I'm pretty sure I chickened out then, or so
Or
I don't
God
think I
stepped
really
in.
wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
But
sorry
so
you got
going
to that
through that,
point.
well, I appreciate that, and I think, um, drugs, alcohol, they fuel whatever you're feeling.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of depression for me at the time, things like that. So, and I can remember going into an AA meeting and sharing that, and afterwards nobody said anything to me, so it just gave me more sense of nobody cared, so what would it matter, if I did, kind of thing. And not that anybody, nothing against AA, or I'm not trying to say anything like that. I just, that's how it is. How sometimes it works out. Nobody spoke. Of course, knowing me, I don't even remember. I probably didn't stick around for anybody to speak to me. So
That's an interesting comment. That's a very interesting comment because I've been thinking about that. Sometimes, like, I know when I was at my worst, I would kind of float comments out there, typically comments that are like, yeah,
yeah.
whatever. But sometimes people really mean it. And
Yeah, you're right, because that's what I did. I think I floated that out there to see what response I would get at the end of the meeting.
yeah, and they don't understand that you're actually in the process of evaluating a decision,
Yeah.
and it man, it's just,
It's difficult because now you got people nowadays, because working with people in addiction like I do now, you hear, well, my girlfriend says she's going to kill herself if I don't come back to her. Or, I
yeah,
hear that a lot. And sometimes I don't know if it's the generation or what it is. Back in the day, when somebody, their word was their word.
hmm,
I feel like now we're in a day and age where some words are just words.
yeah,
And so, um, you don't, you want to take people serious, and you get some people who are just, that seems to be their go-to saying or whatever.
yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right. I think I cut you off, but I didn't mean to. But yeah, I mean, I floated that out there to see what response I would get if anybody cared what I was thinking in my head at the end of the meeting.
Because especially when you feel like, and whether you're right or wrong, and I think most of the time you're wrong, but you feel like in those moments when you're evaluating, you've got nothing to lose. You're like, I've lost everything. Someone make a point on why I should still be here, because from my side, but it's hard to share that. I don't know, especially as a guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Me and my buddy tell one another all the time. He wasn't able to join us today because he's actually at a veterans tournament, golf tournament, where he's meeting with some people and trying to get the podcast out there. But yeah, man, I totally forgot where I was going with that. What was I saying? I got shot in the head.
No,
So.
yeah, yeah. That's a game, man. I like that how you fall back on that. No, but you're just talking about how people say that and whether they mean it or,
Well,
people not
yeah.
taking them.
Yeah, when you got nothing to lose and you're just
Yeah.
like, and you really believe it, and you're making evaluations on what's what. It's
Yeah, and at the time, like, I still had my son, so but I felt like I had
right,
nothing. I
right.
felt like there
Yeah,
was nothing, but in reality, I had everything, and maybe that's what it is. We're in this false reality of thinking that we have absolutely nothing, and
yeah,
but the reality is, I did. I still had my son. I still have my family, who's been a good family
right,
to me. Up,
right.
up to this point, well, always my whole life, my family's it's been me that hadn't been good to them, but
and
so
and
yeah,
and, and alcohol can warp that. It can make it so
yeah,
it gets in between that, you know what I mean? And for
yeah,
me, I was picking alcohol over maybe, you know, I should be talking to my wife of, am I drinking too much, you know what I mean? But it was just like, I
yeah,
didn't care. It was just like, hit that button, hit that button, hit that button. And then, like, I didn't mean to see the world as like I had nothing to lose, because I had everything, like you were saying, like you just get to a place where your soul is just like screaming, and you don't think there's a way forward. And I think it's important that you shared that, because there's so many people who think about that, especially men, but they don't talk about it.
yes, and that's man, that's what we talked about. The guy that came and spoke this morning, the guys that Joe talking about being a man and how there's a sense of pride and willing to say things and not willing,
Yeah,
because as men, we don't, want to feel weak, vulnerable, and so it gets us in trouble.
yeah, absolutely. And
Um, Go
no,
ahead.
I was gonna say, anyways, keep going with this story. It's amazing.
So yeah, so after that, man, came back using. Got to a point to where I thought that this, I got to a point in my life where I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I didn't like who I'd become, because sober Kevin, clean Kevin is a great person.
Mm,
But, Kevin, who's doing meth, snorting, at this time I was just snorting and hadn't got into shooting it yet.
hmm.
But I would do anything. My, give a dang was busted, and I would steal, cheat, rob, whatever, no matter who you
I
are.
like
And,
that. My give a damn was busted. That's good.
so, uh, I got to the point where I didn't like who I'd become. And so I reached out to my parents. I said, "Hey, I need help." And so my dad sent me to this rehab. Well, I said they sent me. I asked to go, but they found a place. He knew of a place. It was a faith based place. 6 weeks, and so that's where I go. It's one of them deals. Like, I asked for help, and then to get there, you gotta go through detox before they'll take you. So I go through detox. In detox, of course, you can talk to doctors any day. I tell them I've had anxiety, all this stuff, so I can get certain pills. And so I hold off on all those pills while I'm there and don't take them. And I wait till the day I'm going to rehab to take all those pills so that I'd be high when I get there. Because, like, I'm still not sure. Even though I said that I'd come to a moment, I still had some reservations. And so, my first day at this place, it was like they knew that was going to happen to me, because when I get there, like, it's a 6 week program, but everything starts on a Monday. I think I got there like on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and they wasn't going to count that as my first week. So I had like a free week,
Okay.
uh, sort of thing. So, but when I got there, they started going through this, like, we'll get up at this time, clean your room, we do breakfast, we do this Bible study, we'll have lunch, like this structure and rigorous routine. And I'm like, man, I just got sent off the Bible boot camp. That's what I thought. I'm like, my dad has sent me to Bible boot camp. So it was crazy, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's called Penfield Christian Homes out in Greenville, man. It's still there. It's still a good place. Um, Really, where I got a foundation for my recovery. Even though I'd relapse, a couple of times, after going there, but as I look back, I know, one, that's where I got a foundation for recovery
Okay.
that I didn't have before. And that's what I tell a lot of people when I'm working with them, and like these guys in the jail, like, what are the odds 9 of the 9 that are left in there? I don't know. One may have got kicked out since you've been. I don't know if they're 10 or 9, but what are the odds that they're all going to make it? And so, I mean, the odds are they're not. Like somebody, the odds are half of them may not. Is what the statistics say. But that's what we're doing while we're doing what we're doing, trying to give them a better kind of a
Foundation.
better opportunity and a better opportunity when they get out to have all this stuff, and we'll get to that in order, to do well. So, but yeah, so that's where I got my foundation of recovery, this place. Not only that, it was one thing. So up to this point, I remember, I haven't talked much about this. So my relationship with God, like I believe I was saved at an early age, when my dad was pastoring. I believe that I walked away from God, several times in my life, and mostly during this time, I was angry at God after my daughter. Growing up in church, that God exists and God allows things to happen. And so in my head, I felt like God was punishing me for my past. I felt like, well, God took my daughter because of what I'd done in the past. He's punishing me. So I'm like, all right, guys, that's the game you want to play. We'll play it. And I do everything I can that I know goes against God. And that's what I did. And that's what I did for the next several years. And until I got to this point of, in this rehab of wanting, at that time I did want to do better, get better,
Mm-hmm.
and be someone different. And so, in this time I kind of found uh, had an opportunity. The guy, like, I'm telling my counselor there this, about my anger towards God, and all this. He says, well, write a letter. He said, tonight before you go to bed, write a letter to God, how you feel, and we'll go from there. I'm like, okay. Um, so that was very easy to do. About 4 pages later, I'm like, oh, that was easy. And so I expressed, like, I just put it all out there. Why I was mad, how I felt like he turned his back on me, the whole nine, or punishing me.
Mm-hmm.
And so a few days later, we go outside, and the counselor's like, you got the letter? I'm like, yeah. He said, all right. He said, I'm going to say a prayer. He said, when I get done, he said, you pray if you want to. He said, and we're standing over this burn barrel. And I said, okay. He said, so he prayed. I mumbled some words. Who knows? I don't even know that I can repeat what I mumbled, but
Right.
so I did whatever. And he said, all right. So he took a lighter to that letter, or let me take a lighter to that letter and burn it. Man, it was like a ton of bricks had been lifted off. Like, I was
Really?
able to get out all my anger. And so I think that started for me. I'm a big believer in visuals, being able to see things, have things. Like, I carry different things around with me, like a rock that says, you without sin. So, the whole story of throwing rocks at God, and Jesus says, if you don't have sin, throw the first stone.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
like, I'm a visual person like that.
I like
And so
that.
I think that was the first time that visually and I've seen and felt like a relief had been lifted off of me. I mean, like a ton of bricks.
Good.
And so, it kind of opened up, and during that time, I can also remember one night I'm going to bed, and I'm fixing to date myself. I was going to bed, and I was dreaming, I didn't know, but in my mind, it was like you popped I say you pop a VHS tape into the VCR, and on the screen was me standing, up on the stage, kind of pulpit setting, preaching, not necessarily preaching, but just speaking. And so I'm like, Lord, so I tell my counselor about it. He said, that's sounds like you're getting a call to the ministry. I'm like, no, I've seen what that looks like from my dad. Like, yeah, I assure you, it's not me. Um, so as I look back, I kind of took that with a grain of salt. Like, I wasn't sure, because being a preacher's son, man, you see a lot behind scenes, that you
Right.
see the politics, see all the stuff that most people don't see in the church. So you see the real ugly, real bad, and you see the good. But I'm there at the house when my dad gets a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he's out to the ER, or out to, Bubba stubbed his toe. Can you come check on him?
Right.
kind of thing. So I get to see all that. We've been on family vacations where he comes home for a funeral or somebody dies or something. So it's, so not everybody gets to see, the back. And I'm not saying that's all bad. My dad was a very accessible pastor.
Yeah.
So, and to the day he died, he admitted that he may have been too accessible to some people. And so he said he had a hard time struggling with family and
Hmm.
because it's church. Everybody thinks you put church first,
Right.
and so as a pastor, you have to fight that of family and church. So, but anyway, that's a whole
Yeah.
nother podcast.
No, that's an interesting point, though. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
So, but yeah, so I fought that. So I kind of graduated from there, went to a rehab in Atlanta, in Sandy Springs. I was there for about 6 months. They asked me to be on staff, so I'm like, okay, so this is maybe my calling. So I enjoyed, I was on staff, enjoyed working with other people. This is where I got my first taste of helping others in recovery.
Okay.
And and I did that for a couple of years, and in that time, man, I saw some ugly. We were in an apartment complex, and so it was like a 3 bedroom, and you had like I had guys sharing rooms. So
Hmm.
I was in my office in another apartment. A guy come over and said, "Hey, Chris and them alarms going off, but the door's locked and can't get in there and turn the alarm off." I'm like, "Okay." So I go over there with a key, open the door. Well, I find these two guys dead of an overdose.
Two of them.
There's
Wow.
two of them, yeah. So one was laying on the bed. His face had already kind of sunk in from whatever they did. You could see the drool on the side of his face. There
Yeah.
was heroin. Is what they were, heroin addicts, and found the needle on the floor. The other guy was in the floor with his legs. It was crossed like the number 4. Like all this specific. I remember it to this day, man.
Of course. Yeah.
Because I've seen those guys, and that was my first taste of losing, friends to addiction. And I can look back and look at these two guys, and for them, man, they'd been clean 9 months, doing well. And I can share, and I can tell you, due to their personalities, and knowing both of them, one of them went to the other and said, "Hey, man, let's go get high one more time. Let's just do it one more time." Because why else would they come back to the apartment and do it?
Yeah.
And let's just do it one more time, and then we won't say nothing, and we'll move on. And unfortunately, it was their last time. They really thought they could get high one more time. Whatever reason, they probably tried to do the same dose at, being clean 9 months they were doing when they first, and
Yeah.
probably overdose. And this was before fentanyl had hit the scene. So this is early 2000s,
Okay.
probably about 2004 or 5 in there. Um, but
You never really think about that. You know what I mean? Like you jump back to the thing that helps you, but you don't think about the quantity and the time that you spent away from it. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
and a lot of people didn't. That was the big deal. That was how most people overdosed back in the day. I
really,
mean,
they're
ain't
just
because of fentanyl or whatever, but it's because they trying to pick up where they left off. And so yeah, so that was an experience. Of course, that brings back a lot of emotions of
Mhm.
seeing them dead with my daughter passing and everything. So, get through that. Come back to Carsville. I was offered a position of being a youth pastor. I thought maybe that's where I'm supposed to be. I'm still floating this whole call to ministry thing. Is it real? Is that what I'm supposed to be doing?
Right.
Am I following God kind of thing? And so did that for a little bit. I met someone, another girl, um, and just for the record, every good relapse story starts with, "And there was this girl."
Yeah.
Just so you know,
That's
just gonna throw that out there.
so what
Just gonna
happened
throw that
was
out there. But and for you gals, for every there was this guy.
yeah.
So anyway, so I met this girl. Uh, there was an age difference. I tried the whole age difference apparently, like my parents did. She was younger. There's some insecurities. We had some issues. I had my son, so we're trying to have kids, couldn't. So there's some jealousy there of me having a son, and we couldn't have kids together. And so um, we had a pretty big fight. I try to only put my stuff out there, not other people's. But um, we get in this confrontation, and so we start splitting. We end up trying to seek help with another youth pastor and their wife. Whatever reason, they took her side. I didn't know you could take sides in these things,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah.
not supposed to be how it goes.
So they took her side just to show you, like, me and this youth pastor. If it wasn't for my buddy Bill, we were in Waffle House meeting and trying to talk about it, and we almost got in a fist fight in the middle of Waffle House.
All good things happen at Waffle House.
Right? Let me tell you this other story of Waffle House real quick. This is the second time I got shot at. I remember punching out my glass door or whatever. I was mad and acting a fool, and so I decided I'm gonna go to the Waffle House. It's like 3 a.m. I got no shirt on, blood all over me, and I go to the Waffle House. I'm like, let's have a burger.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm over there. I was high too, man.
Yeah.
Trying to think. I was eating. The cook said something. I don't think he liked me being there without my shirt on.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, go figure. There's a reason the sign says no shoes, no shirt, no service.
Yeah.
But so I got my burger. So I ended up throwing it at him, and me and him about getting a big fist fight right there in the middle of. And they called the cops. And of course, it's the same cops that came by the house. They're like, "Look, man, you've had a rough night. Just go home." I'm like, okay, as long as I don't go to jail. But so yeah. So anyway, so me and this youth pastor guy about getting a fist fight in the house, and so we ended up couldn't reconcile, split, um, and trying to think, did I stay clean? Trying to put these two, I don't want to run them together.
Sometimes it's tough looking back.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking back. So yeah, because I was working in the dealership with my brother. So so I managed to stay clean through that time. But then I'm at my brother's dealership. So my brother had his own Chevrolet dealership up in Chatsworth. He'd been in car business his whole life. I started out washing cars for him and worked my way up. He wouldn't give me the high position. I had to work for it. So whatever, you know. Sorry that he taught me a lesson in life.
Sounds like your dad, you know.
Yeah, right. But I was grateful for it. So anyway, so I'm working this dealership. So while I'm working here, man, if you ever worked with a bunch of car salesmen, a lot of them drink. So they would all go drink. I'd be their designated driver. We'd pick a car off the lot and we'd head to the ATL and, you know, go to the clubs and stuff. We thought we were hot stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd be the designated driver. Found one, man, when you find Red Bull on tap, man, that was my jam.
Yeah.
I can drink Red Bull all night while I drive these guys around. But as I look back, man, I was setting myself up by doing that, thinking I could be a designated driver. I was inserting myself, even though I wasn't, but I started opening the door for things that were coming. Of course, I meet another girl. Me and these women, man, I'm on number 4, just so you know, like wife number 4. But it'll be 10 years in June. Well, we're 9.5 years in. Well, no, golly, June just passed. So we just celebrated 9 years.
Here we go.
Excuse me, Chang. So this one's lasted longer than the first 3 put together. So I feel like I'm on the right track.
There you go.
But so this third one I met, she was using, like, she smoked pot and drink. And so again, I'm thinking, not a big deal. Everybody's like, oh, it's just pot. And when I hear people say that these days, it makes me cringe. I want to punch them.
Yeah.
Because they say it's just pot. And I'll get to why that bothers me. But so we keep dating, whatever. I think, oh, that's fine. We end up getting married. This is one of them deals, you know, we're going to my dad's church and I'm doing sound. And he's like, son, this is my dad and his Southern Baptist roots. Son, if you're going to do sound, you can't live with a woman without being married. I'm like, fine, we'll get married. So I'm back to this whole thing. My first marriage was because we had a kid, and I feel like that's how you had to be. You know, you had to be married to have a kid. So now this third marriage is because, you know, I can't do sound unless I'm married. So I can't live with her. But
how did you initiate that engagement? Was it like, hey, listen, I'm trying to do sound, I can't do it without getting married?
Well, I mean, yeah, it really Yeah, look, in order for me to do sound in church, we need to be married. What do you think? You want to get married? That's how the proposal starts.
It did, yeah. That's funny.
So we talked. We talked about it anyway, just for the fact. So we got married. After we got married, I found out she did more than just pot and drink, and so I'm like, oh, that's fine, not a big deal. She'd have alcohol in the house. She'd go to parties. We'd go to some stuff together.
So you're like flying closer and closer to the sun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Getting closer and closer. And so here's what it took. So one day, this was 08, 09 when everything started crashing. My brother just opened up a second dealership up in Chattanooga.
Okay.
Right before it crashed. Everything crashed, and so when he did that put him in a bind. As far as he wasn't expecting that. Like our number one sellers, SUVs. We're selling 100 SUVs and trucks a month, and gas has gone up to like $4.50 a gallon.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden,
yeah.
everybody's buying little, electric cars or gas cars, cars that get 50 miles a gallon instead of 12.
Right. And a lot of people weren't buying at all around that era. That's when the housing market collapsed and people like the stocks went down and everyone just kind of froze in place.
Yeah. So that went on. So my brother he was starting to lose his dealership. He'd lost the one in Chattanooga, kind of shut it down before it really got going and took a hit. And so I'll talk about him in a little bit. But he was a functional alcoholic, my brother was, and had been for a long time. And so he quit coming around to the dealership, and I'm like, number one, I just started washing cars like 3 years ago, dude. Like, you can't leave me up. I don't know what's going on. So,
right.
Stress started getting stressful. We started getting to the point at work where we couldn't sell a car unless the people who had our floor plan was there to approve it. And then a bank had to approve. Like, it was a lot just to sell a car.
Really?
Okay. Because of the situation we were in. It wasn't for every dealership, because of the financial situation we were in.
Right.
You had to get several approvals to even sell a car, even if somebody had perfect score.
Yeah. And you don't really want the customer to know all that.
Yeah. So like, take it home for a few days. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's funny.
Yeah. So it got pretty stressful, man. And so all it took, I went home and I'm like, hey, babe, you got some weed? I'd like to smoke a joint. And that's where it started, man. Smoked a joint. Drink some liquor. Next thing I know, I'm smoking meth out of aluminum foil again. And I'm like, that's where everything no matter what I did first, it ends with meth for me.
Okay.
And that was always my go-to. And so, but that's what it took, because I'd made it so accessible to me. Mm-hmm. Not that alcohol wasn't. I wasn't a big drinker, but like I say, wherever it started, it always ended with meth. And so, that's when I learned. As I look back now, of course, I didn't learn any of this at the moment. It's as I've gotten where I'm at now, I'm able to look back at all these things through my life, and I've picked, being able to pick it apart and be like, that's where I went wrong. Should have done something better there. And that's why I'm working on another book now for some of that, guardrails of putting things in place to help keep you on the road. And as I look back, that's why with my wife now, before we got married or even started talking about marriage, I said, look, before we started dating, I'm like, here's the deal. I'm an addict. Like, I can't drink. I can't do anything. And she went to kind of a non-denominational church here. And, they believe drinking wine or beer with milk, whatever. And some people do. Like, I'm not knocking that, saying that's right or wrong. For me personally, I can't.
Me either.
And so I told her that. I said, look, I can't have it in my house. Mm-hmm. I learned that with number 3. Like, I can't have it in the house because it's all it's going to take one bad day and I'm getting drunk. So she agreed to all that, and we've been good with it. It's never been an issue for either one of us. She didn't care enough. She's got her own story, where she dabbled with drugs and her ex and stuff with the kids.
Isn't it nice to have like a relationship with full transparency just from the get-go? Like, hey, this is what comes with me, and just like own it. and then they accept you anyways, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I don't have to
Yeah.
hide this and act a part, and then like you find out down the road and it becomes an issue. You know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
flat out
Well,
put it out there, and yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
because here's the deal. At the end of the day, we all come into a relationship with baggage. Whether you unpack that baggage at day 1 or day 400, it's getting unpacked. You'd rather get it out at the beginning than later on, and you're so invested, and it makes it harder
Yeah,
if
well
something
said.
was to go wrong. So, yeah, so it's always good to get that stuff because you're bringing it with, especially she had 4 kids, I had a kid, one that had passed away. So, like, I had my own baggage, she had her own baggage of an ex that was abusive, to her and the kids and stuff like that. So, you know, we had it. So if you don't talk about it up front, it could be,
Yeah,
it could be a problem later. So
that's awesome
yeah,
when two people come together, and they're just like,
yeah,
this is me, that's you. We can do this together. We just got to make sure we've got these rails in place. And something you mentioned, I don't think a lot of people who aren't addicts or like alcoholics, they don't understand the idea that even alcohol in your home, although it's not yours, creates a stressful situation, or at least it does for me. And sometimes that can become the problem between the addict and the person they're in a relationship with. It's like, why can't I have it in the house if you're not using it? I'm not an alcoholic, or I'm not, all this kinds of
yeah,
stuff. And it takes the right person, and it takes the person who is the addict being absolutely honest, just being like, because I will fucking die.
yeah.
you know what I, you
I
know
don't
what I
think you
mean?
understand. I've got no more relapses left than me. Like
Exactly.
it is what it is. Yeah, you're right because it does, and it takes someone to be able. Because here's what I tell people all the time when they're getting starting to get clean. I'm like, look, man, you got to have enough self awareness to know what your triggers are, to know what your problem is, and where you can go wrong. And I said, but you also got to be bold enough to share that, because if you hold back on something, let's say for my wife, now, like if I would have held back some of that and didn't disclose like what some of my triggers were, what about the alcohol being there, subconsciously, I'm leaving a door open in my mind, just like
Absolutely. Yep.
driving around thinking I can be a designated driver,
Yeah.
or thinking I can be, like I'm leaving that door cracked
Mhm.
for one day for it to get kicked open.
I've thought about that before, and it's really weird how there's some things where you shouldn't do, but you want to fly as close to it as you possibly can. And I don't know if it's like trying to prove to yourself that you could do it, you know what I mean? And be like, see, I can do it, screw everybody else. Or if it's like, I don't know what it is. It's like you want to get close to, and it's that subconscious just looking, little bits. Like I have to be fully aware that not only am I Cameron anymore, I'm Cameron who's an alcoholic with an alcoholic mind. My alcoholic mind, when it sees a commercial that involves alcohol, a movie, TV, other people drinking, it's a trigger. It actually makes me think about drinking. And I have to grab that moment and almost say out loud to God, I'm an alcoholic with an alcoholic mind. And like, because I got to shut it down. You know what I mean? I can't let it fester. I can't let it be like, oh, that would be nice. Or, and that's how the beer commercials work too. It's like, have a nice limey drink next to the water. It's like,
Yeah,
in that commercial, they're not even drinking the alcohol. These are just cans filled
yeah,
with water. You know what I mean? So I'm buying an illusion in my head that
yeah,
like it's not even real, and it all has to do with this obsession with alcohol. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's
It's a
for me.
hot day, a nice cold twisted tea or beer would be nice cutting the grass. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, and
I just have to sweat it out, man. Drink a
yeah,
bottle of water.
yeah.
Like so, yeah. That's what. Yeah, you're totally right. You're right. So, um, but yeah, so so I can't leave those doors open, and that's what I found out with this my third ex-wife at that time, is that man, I couldn't, I put myself in that situation. I set myself up for failure. May not seem like it at the time. May have thought I was doing the right thing or thought I was, being a better person. But yeah, you're right. For me, it doesn't end well like it is for some, because I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, if we drank, we'd probably have more friends to go out with and hang out with.
Yeah.
I said, but but it does. I mean, some people make it look like it's fun, like it's normal, like it's okay. I've been out with friends, and the ones I do hang out with either warn me whether alcohol is going to be there, or if we're out to eat, they'll ask me, "Do you mind if I get a beer?"
Yeah.
And then I always, most of the time I say, "Yeah, that's fine, not going to bother me." But I see them drink one beer and then drink water the rest of the time. I'm like, "How do you do that?" Like
That's like one of the
that ain't
number
me.
that's like a number one topic sometimes at an AA meeting. It's like a guy being like, how is it I can go out with my wife, she can drink half a glass of wine and walk away? He's like, I haven't had a drink for freaking 30 years, but I'm still staring at that half of a glass of wine, being like, you're wasting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Whether you pay for it or not, man, you don't waste alcohol.
Exactly. Yeah.
We used to
And
punch people for alcohol abuse.
exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, man, crazy, crazy. But I think that's it. Oh, you were saying, talking about how we walk that line or get up close to that line, and it made me think that because of our human nature, that's in us to walk that line. We know right from wrong, but boy, we sure do like to play on that line and get close to it and look over the edge. And I think that's me as an addict and doing criminal activity. That's the way it was. Like, what can I get away with? How far
Right.
across this line can I go? And how does it, go from there or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Man, great
but
stuff. Great stuff. Always good
yeah,
when two addicts come together and they're willing to talk about how screwed up they are,
right.
so that others may
uh,
hear. Because there's a lot of
yeah,
people dealing with all this in their head. They're trying to come up with answers on their own. They're embarrassed about the situation, maybe even shameful of the situation. But the truth is, you might just need some help. You might just need some help. And if you're feeling the spirit in you, like that day or something like that, take the next step. What's the worst that could happen? Drive to the AA meeting, even if you don't get out of the car. Like
yeah.
it's at least you're
You got to
making them.
start somewhere.
Now, I understand now you're doing temporary housing for people who are
Yeah,
coming out of the places. So tell me a little bit more about that. Why did you set that up? You talked about the 4 people, places, things. Could you explain
yeah.
that?
Yeah, so let me before I get to that, I know I'm taking forever getting through my story, but this is a crucial part. So
Yeah,
after the
go ahead.
third, I used, got clean again. Nothing really major happened. Got clean again. Was doing good, working with a ministry that had a transitional house, and doing some stuff. And in that mix, I was accused of some stuff at this ministry that was not true, based off some lies that they ended up asking me to resign, and I found myself battling this spiritual warfare of I was doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing. They didn't see it that way. We get in this heated argument. Of course, me and everything always comes to fist blows with me. Maybe it's me. I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my temper. Maybe I need to work on my temper. There you go. But so getting heated, and I end up, man, I can remember driving down the road with my boss. We were doing landscaping, had his own deal, and man, I remember looking at him saying, "Man, I'm tired of pulling myself up by the bootstraps and tired of getting back up just to get knocked down again," and ended up relapsing that night. I mean, that when I said those words out loud, like that gave me permission to go get high that night. And so I did. And it started with some pills and drinking, and this time I started shooting up meth. And this is where I was introduced to a needle. And man, and it didn't take long at all after this relapse. I think 3 or 4 months after just going hard using a needle, that my life came spiraling out of control. And I did something that I thought I'd never do in a million years. And I broke into a church. And so I just didn't break into any church. I broke into a church that my dad had pastored for 19 years. He had resigned. It'd been 2 years. He'd been gone for about a year. They just hired a new pastor after he'd been gone almost 2 years, I think. Um, and man, and it was a church I grew up with these people. They saw me as their son. Like it was,
Right.
like I really done it. And of course, me at the time, I'm thinking, I did it on Memorial Day weekend. So I'm thinking I did it Sunday night. Nobody's going to be there Monday. It'll be Tuesday. I got plenty of time. And by Friday, I mean, it was obvious they figured out who did it. So I made the 6 o'clock news when that was still a thing. So that was interesting watching myself on the 6 o'clock news being wanted.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Wanted all over, the state or Cartersville, and people saw. I guess it made the whole Fox when they were big, so it made it several states over. But so it made national media, and so I ran for a whole day before. Like it was just so stressful, man. That's what we were talking about with the guys in jail the other day. Like it was a huge relief to go up to the jail and be like, "Hey, I'm here. Y'all looking for me."
Hey, yeah.
But my plan was, man, I'd call my parents. I'm like, hey, so here's the deal. I turned myself in on the way up there. We need to call bondsmen. We need to do this, X, Y. And they're like, oh, yeah, let's do that. So I get up there, turn myself in. I'm like, all right, I'll see y'all in a few hours. And I'm sitting there in the holding cell. They book me. Nobody's coming. They bring me some clothes. I'm like, this ain't supposed to be happening, man. Like, my parents are coming. They're like, no, man, you're going up here with everybody else. I'm like, are we sure? Let's talk about this.
Can we double check?
Yeah, can we double check? Can we call somebody? Like, I'm not sure. This ain't the plan I had when I got out of the car.
Right.
And then after the first week, I get this care package of deodorant and toothbrush, toothpaste, and it's from my mom. And I'm like, I'm gonna be here a while. So that was the reality for me. That like, man, I'm going to be here. They made the choice not to bail me out, which looking back and talking with them, man, was the best choice they could have made.
Right.
The best choice. And they said, as parents, that was the hardest thing they'd ever had to do. But that was the best thing for me. And at the time, of course, I'm thinking it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it was. And so I spent 119 days in jail. I kept trying to talk to my lawyer, trying to figure out, like, man, they're trying to make an example out of you. They want to give you 16 years in prison. Like, you made national news. Like, they're not, like, they're not wanting to do anything. And, but then, by the grace of God, I went before the judge. Looking back, I found out that my dad was doing some things behind the scenes, trying to go to bat for me. The church was going to bat for me. So I ended up getting 6 months of rehab, 2 years of drug court, which is accountability court, and 10 years probation, man. And very fortunate. So
Awesome.
went through all that, and going through all that, I was still like, I'm just gonna fake it till I make it. I'll get through all this, and who knows. And so along the way, man, it clicked for me. I really started trying after about a year being in drug court. I missed a drug test. It was on the weekend. Like, we had to have, random drug tests and stuff. And you call this line, they give you a color. And if it's your color, you got to go the next day by 8 o'clock. And so I forgot to call the number. Of course, I was supposed to go. The one time I forget to call the number, I was supposed to go take a drug test and missed it. So, they considered a missed drug test a failed drug test. And so I went, and I'm like, hey, sorry, I missed the drug test over the weekend. They're like, what do you mean? We thought you came. I'm like, then yes, I did come. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, no, I didn't come. So they gave me, instead of 7 day sanction for missing, they only gave me a weekend. And
Okay.
so the thing about this weekend was my 1 year anniversary of being clean. I'm in jail, not for failing a drug test, just because I missed it. Still clean, but I saw some of the same people in there from a year before that had made it back. And I'm like, man, this is not the life. That's when it clicked that I don't want to live this revolving door of this
Right.
system of being brought back. And that's when I really started putting forth the effort of doing better. And so as I went through all that, graduated drug court, another big, one thing looking back in my life, I noticed it was some big things in my life that happened, like losing a child, and divorces can, whether it's your choice or not, divorces can be messy, and they can be hard to deal with. And so I noticed that those were all triggers for me. Like, when something big happens in my life, that's when I don't do well, because I've never looking back, I never surround myself with a support system and never took any steps to do anything different. When I got out of drug court, man, they helped teach me all that. I was out of drug court for about a month. I'm at work at McDonald's. I'd worked my way up there and get a phone call from my mom. Hey, your brother's been hit by a car. So I come. He was cutting the grass. He was on the side of the road. He was going. Well, if you live in Carter, you know where Pettit Creek is over there with the camels and stuff on Castle Road. Yeah, so he was cutting the grass across from that because that's where he lived. His wife and her family was there, lived
Okay.
there, and they were living in one of the houses out back. And lady came. Some said they were on her phone. Some said she may have been looking at the animals or whatever. But she swerved off the road, hit him. He bounced. He was on a zero turn. He bounced off her windshield, went off. She went off to the left over that little hill, down that hill. And when she went to get out of the car, she forgot to put it in park, and the car door pinned her up against a tree.
Shoot.
So it killed her, killed my brother.
Wait.
So
Whoa. I'm so sorry.
2014, September 3rd.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 2014. You remember that?
No. I was just hoping he would survive, and I didn't think the woman would die.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so they both got airlifted to Atlanta. Neither one of them ended up making it. He'd had so much bleeding. He had a gash in his heel that bled out a lot. He was bleeding out of the ears. He took a hard hit to the head,
Man.
whether when he hit the windshield or whatever. So they ended up both passing away. We had to make the decision. Never want to make the decision and pull the plug, but they didn't seem to think there was anything worth. There was no nothing. He wasn't responding to anything. No functioning in the brain and stuff. And so I ended up losing. He was my oldest brother, and one that had the car dealerships and stuff. And so so I went through that experience, but I just graduated drug court, so I kind of had and at the time I was living at home with my parents because to be in drug court, they had to prove your address.
Right.
And I was 38 at the time. I'm thinking, wow, 38-year-old living at home with mom and dad. I was at least above the garage. I wasn't in the basement playing video games like everybody says, still living at home with mom and dad.
Well, to anyone listening, if you go back home and you're living with mom and dad and you're doing it as a means to get your life together, keep going.
Yes.
Keep going, brother. Like, that is not shameful. That's stepping up to the plate. So who's ever listening, do your thing.
Absolutely. So that was the opportunity. But so now also as I look back, that was 2014 when that happened. And as I look back, my parents lost their son. Well, who better to live at home with them and to walk with them than someone who lost their child? So to be able to walk with my parents through that was a pretty big deal. As I look back and see, and we never know why things happen, and if that's why God chose to take my daughter when she did, or whether it's going to be health problems, whatever the case, like I don't know and won't know until the other side of heaven. But if that's what I had to go through to walk through with my parents 14 years later, as my brother, was killed, and for them to lose a child to help them through it, then so be it. To me, it was worth it. So that's a moment I had. But so going through that, made it through that, stayed clean. So I got clean June 2nd, 2012. That's when I turned myself in, and went through, man, fighting these things. I'm like, going to start a ministry, or I'm going to start a nonprofit. I wanted to do a halfway house kind of thing. I wanted to build a place, and so I toyed with that. Well, then I went to Chick-fil-A and work, started moving up, man. I for the first 10 years of my recovery, I fought doing what made me happen, my passion, and what I felt like God was calling me to do versus the world, making money, moving up, doing well, providing for your family. Because let me tell you, ministry does not pay that well.
Right.
So, so going through all that, that was my battle up till 3 years ago, really 4 years ago. It took my dad passing to really click for me. Hey, this is what I need to be doing. And so he'd gotten sick. He'd had several things. He made it through the pandemic, like even though he was scared to death of that. But he ended up getting like a form of leukemia, and I didn't know really till, gosh, I think it was last year that me and my wife found out that my dad they'd put an I don't know, how do you say this? They put I was gonna say an expiration on him, but they gave him so long to live, but
Right.
they
Like
didn't tell none of us. So my
you're
parents didn't tell none of us. So we didn't know that. But as he was getting close to the end, I felt it and saw it and started spending more time with him, going over there and doing. And so I kind of know, and I have a voice recording of the morning of going to the hospital that he died when I got there later. Of I could feel like I knew I was coming home alone. Like I knew he wasn't coming home. And so I could sense it, knew it. Um, get to the hospital. Like he was in there for a weekend. We were there all weekend, and Sunday, doctor's like, "Hey, y'all all come Monday morning. We'll talk about next steps, see what we can do, what we're going to do." And so, me and my brothers get there 8 o'clock, a little later than 8 because one of my brothers was late. But when all three of my brothers and my mom were in the room, I saw my dad look up, and he looked at all of us, and he flatlined right there. So that was January 21st, 2021. But that was my dad. We were all together. We were there. You know, I knew my brothers, they kind of caught them off guard. Of course, my mom, I mean, 53 years together, it's, whether you knew it's coming or not, it's tough. But at that moment or at that time, man, I truly felt this was God saying, "Hey, it's your turn. It's your time." And so that's when I started working on a book, um, a story about my life, what I've been through, and then started working on uh, what a ministry, a nonprofit looked like of helping other people. Like, what can I do? Because my original plan, as I get to what I'm going to, my original plan was to build a place, house like 20 guys on 20
mhm.
acres, do animals like self-sustainable, growing your garden. Animals to have some. One thing I learned for addicts is if we don't have structure, that's kind of our problem if we don't have any kind of structure, any kind of responsibilities. And so that was the goal: teach them responsibilities, build some structure, get some business community to create some, not create, but kind of teach them new trades,
Yep.
something new, kind of thing. And so that was my goal when I started kicking this idea of starting a nonprofit and
Mhm.
starting the ministry that I've got now. And so with that, um, uh, started working on trying to figure out what that was going to look like. I wrote my book, released it, started working on this nonprofit. It started, I think I got my status in September of 2022. But my goal was to find 20 acres and do it. Well, day one, I'm like, I go out and I start talking to people about funding money. I'm like, I need money to do this. So the first guy I talked to, good friend, got lots of money. And he's like, if you talk to zoning, to see what they say about that or what you want to do. I'm like, what do you mean? I can't just go get 20 acres and build what I want and do what I want? He's like, no, man, that's not how that works. I'm like, okay.
Well, I
So
didn't
I
know
go to,
that. I didn't know that.
yeah, well, that's me too, man. So I go to zoning like, well, if that's what you're doing, you know, if you do a single dwelling house, you can have up to 7 guys in it. You can have as many of those as you want to. You can have 5 houses with 7 guys. He said, if you're going to have more than 7 guys, then you have to have a commercial C property with 3 or more acres. I'm like, what? And so I'm like, okay. So back to the drawing board. So, man, um, for a year or so, man, I really trying to figure out, all right, God, what are we doing? Figuring out, like, I'm still working a job, trying to figure this out, you know, and yeah, trying to. I'm having conversations like, so I talked to my job. They were giving the sign place. I was working at the sign place, and so I
Really?
told, yeah, so that's
I
where I was
didn't know
working.
that. I had no
Yeah, so that's
idea.
how I know them so well. Yeah, so I'd
Oh,
been working for them for a while, and I told them they knew what I was wanting to do. They knew my story. They knew my past, and I'm like, hey, I think God, I think I'm going to, um, I think it's time for me to take a chance. And then I'm like, I think I'm going to quit on this day. And we got close to that. I'm like, hey, so can I just take one day a week off? Can I work 4 days a week and just do one day? So I did that for like a year. And that one day a week, man, I was having conversations with people. I was meeting with people, trying to get wisdom, guidance, trying to figure out, see who is doing this and who's doing it well. Do I need to just partner them and not do my own thing? Or,
Right.
because just trying to figure out what that looked like. Come across this thing called Mobile Loaves and Fish out in Austin, Texas. It's a tiny home community. They strictly house homeless people, but you got to be homeless for a year to qualify to get in. They give you a social worker that walks you through everything during that year to get you a house. It's like $300, $400 a month. So he has this huge tiny home community out there right now with like 400 tiny homes
Wow.
for homeless, and it's a great model. If you have time to look at it, man, Mobile Loaves and Fish, it's a great model of what they're doing. They're getting ready to add their own 50 acres, just got given another 100 acres and fixing to add, more. Um, so I'm like, well, that's a great idea. Well, then I found out in Kennesaw, there's a church who built some tiny homes during the pandemic, and they were working with, or maybe right before the pandemic, they built them. They were working with the sex trafficking people
Uh-huh.
to house the girls in there to protect them and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So I go visit them, and that's why, man, tiny homes. Well, I come back to Bartow, and they're like, oh yeah, there's a zoning thing that says it has to be 1,200 square foot. The roof has to be a certain pitch, and you can't do that here. Well, then somebody's like, hey, just so you know, there's a federal law that says churches can do whatever they want to, not have to follow local zoning laws on some of that stuff. I'm like,
Oh, so you found a
oh,
workaround. Okay.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that explains why they were able to do it in Kennesaw. And so I started working that angle. So I had to find somewhere to do it. I had to find a church that's going to let me. And so I'm like, okay. And so I go to this pastor and I say, hey, man, this is what I'm looking at doing. Would love to do it there. And it took 17, it wasn't until February 9th of this year before they gave me the final yes. And, but that church is a church I broke into. So, so of all things, man, to see this thing come full circle 13 years ago, this church is going to let me build these tiny homes in their backyard to help people who broke into their church.
That's crazy. God writes the best stories. You know what
Right?
I mean? Like, you don't
Yeah.
even see it coming, and then something like that, you're just like, whoa, like that
So
is
yeah,
amazing and so
so
cool.
yeah, it's crazy, man. And to see, I'm a big date person. I guess numbers are a thing for me. I was good at math, and maybe that's why. But like February the 9th, we had a church service, and we made it public because we've been working on it for like 17 months, kind of behind closed doors, working out the logistics, what this going to look like. Do we want to do it? How's it going to look? That kind of thing. And February 9th, we had that. We told the church at the end of the service, and then we made it public
Is
then to
is
everybody.
is February 9th also the anniversary of your daughter?
Yes, it is. That's the day that
Wow.
she died 25 years ago. Ain't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. And look,
That,
I'll share another. That's wild. I know, man. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make
no.
this stuff up. Look, my grandson I was telling you about. So, my he was due middle of December, and he ended up being born on November the 29th. Well, my daughter was born November the 29th in 1999. So he was born 2023 on November the 29th. And she was due in the middle of December too. My son's birthday is December the 18th. So they were all due about the same time
Yeah,
and ended up coming on the same day 24 years later.
that's insane.
I know.
You're right. You couldn't even write. You couldn't write
No.
that. You couldn't. None of it. That's just like when you see stuff like that. It's like magic. It
Yeah.
like full on is like magic. You like
Yeah.
return to the heart of a child. You're like anything is possible. Like because you don't even realize the story's being written the whole time. Like
No clue.
you're stuck in this place where like you know the world is right here in front of you and I'm making bad decisions. Why can't I get this right? And like all this kinds of stuff. But you don't realize that whole time a story's being written to kind of complete the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. Can you still hear me? My AirPod just died.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It'll be all right.
Okay.
Yeah. No
All
problem.
right. So February 9th, they said yeah. So ever since then, I've been working on. I just last week got the concept. I'll shoot you. I'll text you a picture of it just so you can see it. You're welcome to
Please.
share it if you want to.
I will.
But of what it's going to look like at the church. The
Very
concept of
cool.
how the layout of it, the driveway, the parking, the whole 9 yards. So we finally got that finalized last week. So
Okay.
the guy, the land surveyor did it. He's working on making a better drawing and get some more things ironed out because
Oh,
sewer
yeah.
and water is going to be our biggest problem. Trying to figure that out, but
Yeah.
so just got the concept. So we're at the very beginning. I say beginning. We're moved on a little bit, but as soon as we get this, we'll take it to the zoning to get their approval, or for them to say, the fire marshal will be like, well, you need to do this, or they'll say, hey, do this, or whatever. So we're at that process of getting this thing going. So yeah,
That's great. They're involved, which means they're entertaining it.
yeah,
They're, they see the value and all that kind of stuff. And as long as you can check the boxes so they can cover their own backside, you're good. Because that's really all it is most of the time. Everyone's just covering their backside.
yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, that was quite a story. Quite a
Look, and we hadn't
story.
got into the jail stuff, man. I'm telling you, it's up to you.
Yeah,
We've been
so
on here forever. I don't know if you do two. Do you do 2-part series?
we could, yeah, we absolutely could. Yeah, we will do that. I tell you what, we'll call this a day for your story and your journey, and then we're gonna come back to you with another episode at some point to follow up to see what's going on with the
Okay.
community that you're setting up, to follow up what's happening with the guys and
Okay.
how they're doing,
Yeah.
follow up with you and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like if we do any more, no one will be able to retain it all. You know what I mean?
I mean, we've covered a
I'm
lot. I know, man.
a lot,
And I
and
didn't really mean to, because usually I kind of skip through to what I'm doing now. But for whatever
I'm
reason,
so
man, I just
glad.
kind of I put out the details and went a little deeper than usual. So
I'm so glad because it creates that whole road,
yeah,
and it's so. I was talking to Dennis, who's usually on here with me. The road only makes sense when you look back.
yeah, yeah,
The when you're on the journey, it's just chaos, and you're like, no way am I supposed to be anywhere near where I'm at right now. But it turns out that place was exactly what you needed, and then it's just insane. It's insane. It's like the story of the prodigal son. Everyone experiences it almost. They like go out there, they try it on their own, they fly really close to the sun, they get all screwed up, then they try to prove that they can do it and go back to it, and then eventually they're just like, I'm tired of getting burned. You know what
yes,
I mean?
yeah,
And then eventually. So awesome, Kevin. This has been an absolute pleasure.
yeah,
Thank you
man.
so much for coming on, and we'll check on you in the
All
future.
right, man. Sounds good. I appreciate you.
All right, take care.
All right, buddy.
Thanks for joining us again, guys. Stay tuned for more incredible episodes. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you didn't do it before, like and subscribe so we can get more episodes to you. Have a great week.